Welcome everybody to the first episode of a new Let's Play tutorial series covering TerraScape. If you would like to skip the game's overview, please use YouTube chapters and more information can be found in the description of this video. Welcome everybody to a brand new series playing TerraScape. TerraScape is a game where you build gorgeous kingdoms on floating islands by strategically placing buildings to synergize with each other and the landscape. Unlock new building tiles and discover secret combinations, take on weekly challenges, and explore randomly generated maps. I'll be showcasing the game as a mix of Let's Play and tutorial, and as per usual, it will air on YouTube. There's a bunch of different ways to play the game. There is Kingdom Mode, where you chase a high score. There is puzzles, but I'm going to at least start by playing the scenarios. And I'm also going to approach the scenarios as if I've never played before. So pretending like I don't already know the missions that I'm given and the solutions to said missions, so that you all can see how a new player would approach the game. Complete all main objectives to unlock the next scenario. Secure the basic needs for our workers and establish a manor farm for administration. To build a prospering country, the cornerstones of a society need to be established. We require capable workers who have been supplied with provisions. Even the best craftsmen will struggle to construct a kingdom on an empty stomach. So this is a bit of a terraformer, settlement builder, deck builder game. And we start off with basic food and basic settlement decks. There is a random seed, but I'm fine with whatever they give me. And let's get going. To build a prospering country, well, actually, I just read this. All right. So the first thing we want to do is, maybe even before I start to do the game's overview, I'll just go over the UI. It's a pretty simple UI. On the top left, you have the overarching goal. So there's 12 main objectives to complete to end the scenario. And the first goal is to unlock the settlement deck. Down here are map tile filters. So you can show and hide the hex grids. You can show or hide the resources on the tiles. You can show and hide buildings, which I have none, so that's kind of moot. And then terrain blockers, which will also include the buildings that you build. And this is the random seed that I got. And the first thing that we're going to do... Oh, and then a little bit more UI. So over in the right here, you have... Oh, I shouldn't already know that. I forgot to delete my profile again to remove access, but that's something that's going to come into play very soon, so it doesn't really matter. All right, on the bottom, you have the decks to unlock here, and then you have points that will increase access to new cards and to get new cards. So this is like unlocking cards, and this is accessing more cards to play. And then down below is your like rating, if you will. And that's about enough information for now. So the first thing you place down is your keep. And as you can see, it's a rather large building. And it will get proximity bonuses to a lot of other things that you build. But I wouldn't say it's super important to overthink where you place this. So I'm just going to drop it right there. And in dropping the keep, here it is, we get the first upgrade. So here are the decks that you can unlock. And right now I have a unlock the settlement deck. So with that in mind, if I clicked on basic food and unlocked it, I would very much fail the scenario. So you got to make correct choices. And all of these decks will get unlocked throughout the course. Not all of them get unlocked during the scenarios, but during the kingdom play they do. All right, we're going to go with the settlement deck because that's what the tutorial tells me to do. And up top, you can see the settlement deck. So right now I have cottages, and there are 3 other cards in the settlement deck that will be unlocked as I upgrade the settlement deck. Basically, as I earn points placing settlement cards, I will unlock additional settlement cards to be played. So on the bottom, we have, like I said, in the blue is the unlocks, and in the orange is how many cards I can play. So at the moment, I have 2 cottage cards, and I can unlock more cards by clicking this button, but I'm not going to do that right now. So it wants me to place 8 cottages with a rating of silver. So if you mouse over a card, it will tell you how it gains or loses points. So the cottages like to be placed in arid, rural, or next to megalith, rivers, or other cottages, and not near coasts, urban, or predator. So if we plop this down and stick it on the coast, as you can see, it's a big old -5. That's not going to really give me any points. Now, it did mention that it likes to be next to megaliths, so here is a megalith, and as you can see, that gives me a 15. The color that coordinates with the points that are awarded are how many is sort of the points for placing it there. So like this is a gold placement, for instance, whereas like this is a 0 placement. And placing them adjacent to one another is also a benefit. So like let's do this, where I have it next to a megalith, and as you can see, that counts for 1. And then as it's next to itself and a megalith, that gives me more points. So at this very moment, I am out of cards, and I can click this orange button to unlock more. So the more points you get for good placements, the more cards you will unlock to continue playing. And if you run out of cards and you can't place any more, you lose, or the scenario is over, or your high score is registered, depending on your game mode. So when I click this, I get access to all the cards that I have access to, which is settlement deck. And now I have 4 more settlement cards. So placing it here is a silver placement. But placing it next to the megalith earns more points. So I may want to continue placing it next to the megalith just for the added points. And I can also start some other clusters of cottages elsewhere, because that's not the only megalith, and that's not the only beneficial spot. Like, here's a 25-point placement. And there's a 20-point placement on the other side of the megalith. Maybe a 20 here. And now I only have 2 more cottages placed down to fulfill the quest at the top left. So let's place 2 more down. So there's a 25. And at this moment, I have just unlocked a keep upgrade. And the keep upgrade allows you to unlock new decks of cards. I will say, with experience, it is not always a smart play to immediately unlock the next deck. And the reason is, if you have a lot of variety of cards that you have access to, and you need a specific card to complete a main objective. So right now, I need cottages. Unlocking additional card types will offer cottages less frequently, meaning it will be harder to achieve the goal. So sometimes having a wider variety of cards is bad when you just need a specific type of card you already have access to win. So be careful about unlocking early. Additionally, if I unlocked it, obviously the only thing that is offered is basic food, but in other scenarios, you might have multiple options, but you don't know what the main quest will be until it's offered. Will the first card get the bonus? No. So once you've placed a card, the points are awarded. It's not recalculated for subsequent, like, retroactive benefits. So all I need to do is place 1 more cottage. And let's see. I'll place 1 here. And there we go. That is done. So now it wants me to create a longhouse, which is a merged building of cottages. And it wants me, this side quest here is not required to win the scenario, but I'm going to attempt to do all side quests anyway, just for the added challenge. So a longhouse is what I had already unlocked over here. And it is 4 cottages in a diamond formation forming a longhouse. And your longhouse, so there's a few important details about this. So one is that it will immediately also reward for creating a combination. It will give you a remove resource card. Meaning that if you have like berries or deer that you want to remove from the terrain for any reason, you get a free card from it. And you can also recycle these cards. If you mouse over it, as you can see, there's a recycle cost of 5. So let's say I didn't want to place any more cottages down. I could recycle the cottage cards, and right now I'm 22 out of 47. So even recycling these 2 cottage cards wouldn't award me new cards. But, you know, if you were close to getting a new deck of cards, you could recycle. The other thing is there are other merges. So for instance, I have not discovered the tiles to create this pattern, but this is something that I can build in the future, which involves 3 cottages and then 4 other something else. And there's a bunch of hidden sort of combinations here. Another thing about the longhouse, or really this is true about any combined building for the most part, is there is the concept of elevation levels. So a combined longhouse can't span 3 elevation levels, only 2. Meaning that we can build like a longhouse out of these 2 houses because they're on 2 different tiles, but if I put another cottage up here, this cottage is going to be too high from the cottages down here to ever form a longhouse. So you have to keep in mind that elevation levels matter, and yes, you can change elevation levels of the terrain with other cards. So let's make our first longhouse. So I'll put a cottage here, and here. That forms the diamond pattern. And now this is a longhouse. Now the other thing that happens when you build a longhouse, and we should open up the cards again, so I'm going to pull the settlement cards back out, is it will also generate rural on surrounding tiles. So all around the longhouse, we'll get these rural tile benefits. So as I'm placing the cottage here, you can see that there's a 10 in the middle. So it's getting an adjacency with a longhouse of 10. And then also, because I'm placing it on a rural, I get another 10. Because cottages benefit from being next to a longhouse by 10 and on rural by 10. So putting and clustering your buildings together will help with, you know, increasing your score. So as I was saying about the longhouse, building 2 cottages here will not form a longhouse because it spans too many elevation levels. I would need to raise the terrain of this tile up by 1. So if I wanted to build a longhouse here, I couldn't because this individual cottage is just too high. I could build a longhouse a different way instead, like this. So when I placed that last cottage there was a potential longhouse in this diamond formation, but it spanned too many elevation levels, and then there was this one that only spanned 2 elevation levels, so this one is the one that formed as a result. And now I've done 2 of the 6 longhouses. So let's use some of the other cottages I've already placed to form other longhouses. And this is exactly why, I mean, if I had extra cards, I would not constantly be getting settlement cards. Or cottage cards. Now, another thing just happened. I had leveled up my settlement deck to unlock a second type of settlement card, which is Well. Wells benefit from being on rural and adjacent to longhouses, megaliths, cottages, and not predators or other wells. There's a huge penalty, and this is true for a lot of cards that are not houses or farms, is they are usually massively penalized if adjacent to one another. So, not that it's much of a spoiler, but eventually you get cards like taverns or bathhouses or churches or monasteries, stuff like that. And obviously having them overlap is really bad, so you should plan accordingly. There's another longhouse. And longhouse number 4. Now the other thing is when we unlock the well card, if we take a look here, here is something that we can build with a configuration with a well involved. Here is another thing. But there isn't a full discovered combination yet. So there's no combination with these wells. Additionally, if we look at the well card, we can recycle it for 10 instead of 5, so it recycles for more. And it also has a little star here. So the star indicates kind of like the level of the card. And generally speaking, higher level cards generate more points. So as you advance your decks, there's more point generation potential. So for instance, putting a well here that is adjacent to 2 longhouses yields 40 points, as it's also on a rural tile, whereas I've never had a cottage get that many points at once, right? And if I put it over here, it'd be, you know, similar or high point value. So taking a look at this, sticking a well in between all of the longhouses seems to be a real moneymaker. So let's build another longhouse configuration where there's a well in the middle. There's going to be space for like a well, you know, here or there. And I'll place one more longhouse combo. And here is a good example. These span too many different elevation levels, so they didn't form into a longhouse. So the only way to make them form into a longhouse is to place it here where I wanted the well. Which brings me to the undo button. You can only undo one single map tile placement, and no more than that. But it's a pretty handy tool if you like misclick or something like that. Alright, so now we have 6 out of 6 merged longhouses, and it wants me to unlock the basic food deck. And I'm 3/12 of the way through. So here is the basic food deck. And it wants me to create a merged fruit farm. Well, let's grab some basic food. So anytime you draw, you pick a deck. So I'm going to pick the basic food deck, and it gave me gathering huts. So it wants me to build a merged fruit farm, which is a triangle pattern of gathering huts. The gathering huts benefit from being on grass or arid, and benefit from being next to other gathering huts, and particularly next to berry bushes. So these here are berry bushes, and placing them in such a way that they can be adjacent to one another. So for instance, if I placed one here, here, and here, that would form a fruit farm. And the first placement yields a whole lot of points because it's next to 4 berry. Let's get basic food again. And there we go. There's a fruit farm. So a fruit farm, when merged, gives me the ability to place 2 berry bushes on demand. And then additionally, it increases the surrounding map tiles to grass. So what I'm trying to say is you can effectively terraform. If you remember what this looked like before I placed these down, this was a coast. This was a sandy coast, and I've turned it to grassland through the formation of this fruit farm. So if we need to make another fruit farm, I need at least 3 more berry bush cards. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then we should pick a really good spot in order to have one hell of a fruit farm. So there's a lot of fruit around here. And maybe I'll place it in this sort of triangle pattern. So I'm going to place berry bushes in advance. 1 there. And 1 there. And 1, 2, 3. There's another fruit farm. Okay. For these extra cards that I've gotten, my 6 remove resource that I got for making these 6 merged longhouses, and the place game, and the berry bushes, they're pretty good cards to recycle if you have to. Because placing game next to it doesn't make as many points typically as one of these combination cards. Right, like I can make 30 points by placing a cottage, or 15 points by placing game, but they recycle for the same. So if you have to recycle, typically these bonus cards are where it's at. So the next thing is it wants me to place a hunting cabin with a rating of gold. Also, I have discovered some new possible patterns. So here is 3 wheat and a cottage. Here is a bunch of wheat and a well, but I don't know the other 2. Wheat and 2 other things, and then 3 fruit and something. And 1 fruit and a whole bunch of stuff. So placing these hunting cabins, the hunting cabins benefit from being on thicket and being next to game or predators, but a huge penalty to being next to other hunting cabins. So thicket would be like the woods back here. And this is a gold placement, I guess. But maybe there's better. There's not a... yeah, here we go. So this hunting cabin manages to hit 4 groupings of deer and is placed on a thicket. That's probably going to be the highest placement on this map tile, I'd imagine. Oh, no, we have better. Here's 5. 5 in a thicket. Perfect. We'll place it there. Alright. It wants me to place 8 wheat fields, which is, if we go to the decks up here in the top right, into basic food, it's one of the 3 current basic food cards that I have unlocked. And it also wants me to place 5 wells. So let's unlock some of the wheat farms. So there's a wheat field. And as you can see, as I'm unlocking these cards, I'm not getting a lot of wheat fields. I'm getting mostly gathering huts and berry bushes. So if you're wondering, my 2 cents, it's usually better to place these things rather than to recycle them in order to aim for the cards you want. And my reason for that is you can get a lot more points by using them than recycling them, generally speaking. So if you're really strapped for space, maybe recycling them makes sense, but I'm not. So I'll like create a merged fruit farm to add more points to my card count. Alright, there we go. I got mostly wheat fields that pull. And let's not only place a wheat field, let's try to place the wheat field in the combination like this. So wheat fields like to be placed on grass, and that's pretty much their only requirement. Grass or arid. So if I placed a wheat field like this, 1, 2, 3, I got 30 points each for the grass, and then a cottage in the middle. And that forms a farmstead. The farmstead gives 10 additional points. It will grant me a wheat field card, and it turns everything around it to grass time. It also counts for 3 of the 8 wheat placements. And the farmsteads benefit from adjacency to wells. So, as does, of course, the fruit farm. So if I wanted to place wells, placing them next to farmsteads is a pretty good idea. Alright, I'm going to continue placing my little farmsteads. I'll do one back here. Oh no, that's going to bridge too many elevations. This won't... Well, I'll discount it. It's fine. 1, 2, 3. And a cottage. Okay. And then I can place a well here. And this well is next to a cottage, a farmstead, and longhouses. But I think what I want to do is place one more farmstead in this corner. So I'll pick basic food. Oh. I'll use that card in a little bit. Okay, here we go. So I'm planning on having another farmstead laid out like this. 1, 2, 3. With a cottage there. And then dropping my well next to all of them. And that fulfills one of the 5 wells I need to place. Alright. I have 4 more wells to place, and I have 3 wells on me. So let's just plop these down. There's 1 well. 2 wells. Wells like to be next to longhouses, fruit farms, megaliths, and farmsteads. 3 wells. And then I need 1 more well, which is a settlement card. And here we go. Is there a good spot? Yeah, here is a good spot. Okay. One of the objectives was to earn points with the settlement deck, but I did that immediately. The next objective is to create a farmstead. So I've been actually making farmsteads, and I'm already ahead of that as a result. So let's keep making farmsteads. So farmsteads are best placed on grassland, and I'll just keep working on that. 1, 2, 3, and a cottage. Makes a lovely little farmstead. Now I did want to talk about these like super cards. These super cards are special. You get them from, you know, the luck of the draw, and they have increased range and higher bonuses than typical wheat. So like this wheat field, for instance, gains a lot more points from an adjacent farmstead than a regular wheat. So like this has huge adjacency bonuses, right? Like here's a diamond, which is blue, a diamond placement, which is, I haven't seen that yet on this map. So these cards are very strategic as a result. So I think what I'm going to do is create a farmstead here using the super wheat field. And I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to use one of my remove resource cards here. And that turns it from iron to grassland, so that I can get the bonus placing regular wheat. I'll place my cottage, and then I'll place the... Oh, well actually that's not that high yield. Alright, let's not waste the super card. I'll just do a regular farmstead here. Let's see where we can put our super wheat card. I might not even want to involve it in a farmstead, just because it seems like it makes more points without placing it within a farmstead configuration. So I'll just plop it here. 90 points is kind of nice. And there we go. It's a diamond placement. And likewise, I have a fruit gatherer hut with the same sort of bonuses. So this one has a huge bonus from being adjacent to berry bushes and fruit farms and farmsteads. So there's a 175 point placement here. Wonder if I could do better than that. That's pretty high. It's going to be hard to beat. I bet I could get even higher if I plopped... So, what it was, 175 here? If I put some fruit around it. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. 255 points. That's one way to rack in the cash. And then I can also turn it into a fruit farm by just completing the pattern, because it's still, after all, a gathering hut. That hasn't changed. And in making a bunch of raising my score using basic food, I just unlocked the last card of the food deck, which is the cow pasture. Cow pastures like to be adjacent to farmsteads. Unfortunately, I have not designed my terraforming efforts to really take advantage of that. As you can see, my farmsteads are back here, nested at the edge of the map. So I can't really put cow back here for adjacency bonuses. But let's go ahead and focus on the last farmstead I have to create. Oh, I got another super wheat. Alright, so last farmstead I need to create. We'll plop it back here. 1, 2, 3, and a cottage makes a farmstead. And now I only have one more main quest left to do. So, create a manor farm. And if I hadn't played this game before, I wouldn't really know where to go from here. But the side quests have me covered. So these side quests saying to reach the settlement milestone 3 is directing me to use settlement cards. So the manor farm needs more settlement cards unlocked. So if I take a look at my decks here and go to the settlement, I only have unlocked cottages and wells. It's these other two buildings in the settlement deck that creates the manor farm. So let's go ahead and spend some settlement cards in order to unlock the manor farm. And that means making a lot of longhouse configurations. And then also, I've been leaving room for like a well in the middle, so that I can get points for building wells as well. And here we go. I unlocked the card that I wanted. So there's a diamond well placed in the middle of 4 longhouses. And I just unlocked the house building. So unlike the cottages, which are rural, these houses are urban. And if I look at the merge deck here, highlighted in green, this is the configuration for the manor farm. It's green because it's the main quest. So I think what I want to do is work on the side quests before making the manor farm, because these side quests, I think I can complete all the while as well. So there's something called a city district, and here it is. It's 4 houses in configuration. So let's do that. And I'm going to need more settlement cards to get that done. Alright. Here's the city district. And the city districts are fundamentally different from the longhouses because they are urbanized. So when they're built, it removes resources on surrounding tiles, and it creates urban areas around surrounding tiles, and it does grant a free house card. So here, where I have my city district, everything around it is like this urban stone as a result. And I need to make 9 more of these, which is quite a lot. So I'm going to get a whole lot of these house cards. And because the house cards like to be next to other city districts and the keep, it's best to create your city districts kind of adjacent to one another. The cities, or the houses, do not like to be in urban environments. So although there is some bonus in being somewhat adjacent to the longhouses here, being on top of their rural tiles is bad. So like placing it here is a decent spot, but placing it here is not so good. Alright, I am up to 4 of 10. And I've kind of surrounded this fruit farm in the middle. Now there's multiple layers of elevation difference here. So if making city districts, I have to keep that in mind, because I won't be able to merge them together if it bridges too many elevation levels. And I just hit settlement milestone 1. So the settlement milestone 1 unlocks a new card for me. So if I go to my decks here, I now have the market card. This gains points from being urban, being next to city districts, and keeps. And I can stick a market. That's a pretty good spot for 110 points. Or put one over here for like 95 points. And then I also have this like strong well here. But let's see. Here's a diamond position. Probably could even be, what was that, 75? I could probably do better than that. Placing it, yeah. Somewhere over here. Near my farmsteads. 95. 95's the point to beat. It's next to another well, which is a little odd. Oh, here we go. Oh, no, that's next to another well as well. Mayhaps I'll just ignore the penalties, the lost points for having well adjacencies, and just, you know, get 95 points for it. Alright. I'll finish up the remaining city districts that the game wants me to build. But I left space, and typically when I build city districts, I like to leave a few spaces in the middle so I can plop down things like markets for all of the adjacency bonuses being around the city districts. So building with that in mind is very handy. So like I've left space here and here for like market or something like that. So I can put another market as it's far enough away from the original market that it won't suffer the penalties of having multiple market adjacent issues. And you can see the kingdom is looking a lot different now that I'm putting up all these cities. So one more city, merged city district, and I'm done with that side quest. Done. Now it wants me to reach settlement milestone 3. And for that, I need just a lot of settlement points. So even though I'm done with the city districts are some of the easiest ways to make settlement points. So that was milestone 2. So I'm getting pretty close to that. And these aren't merging because they're on various elevation levels. But I can fix that just by putting other house cards. This house here is stuck never to be merged into a city district, though, because there's not the space around it to allow for it. Is there a limit of how many cards you can have in your hand? No, not really. I mean, I have 28 cottage cards right now, for instance. And, you know, I can recycle them for new deck points. But there is no real penalties, per se. It gets a little tricky where when you fill up your hand full of cards you don't intend to use, you might as well turn them into points. Let's see, where can this go? Here we go. Really racking in these points. I'm getting pretty close to the goal. And there we go. There's milestone settlement 3. Done. Now with no more side quests being offered, let's go create that manor farm. So back to the merge building tabs. And any of the undiscovered combinations that I've access to, I should make before I make the manor. I think the manor is probably the only one I have, though. Yeah, the manors are the only one I have. So let's go with that manor farm. So for that I need 4 wheat fields and a well. That's 3 wheat fields. Here's 4 wheat fields and a well, and then 2 houses. Because it's a full 7 hex, make sure you start placing it somewhere really flat. Because if it's not really flat, it's not going to merge. Because of the various elevation levels. So here we go. This spot here looks pretty good for the manor farm. And done. There is our manor farm. Good work! You've successfully mastered all challenges that you faced, and thanks to your determination, your kingdom has grown once again. Now new endeavors are waiting for you. Here's my score. And now that I have actually made a mana farm for the first time, you can see the bonuses, which is cattle pastures, a beekeeper. Beekeepers are very powerful cards because they have huge point bonuses for adjacencies, and they have a really wide adjacency range of 3. Then it also removes resources and blockers on the surrounding tiles. So the mana farm is really good to help clear the area around it if you have terrain that you need cleared, and then also replaces it with grass. So here is like, I'm done with this, but I might as well just drop the beekeeper somewhere awesome before I finish up. As you can see, because of the giant ranges, you can have pretty good points for beekeepers. Like I put some beekeepers down play testing this game for like hundreds and hundreds of points. Alright, so let's wrap this one up and go back to the main menu. Thank you for tuning in to TerraScape, which originally streamed live on Twitch August 23rd. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow viewers.